Consumer behavior modeling is the study of how individual consumers choose to spend their income. Mathematics and economic theory form the backbone of this science, but at its core is the study of human psychology, perhaps the most controversial component of this analytical model. Tracking and predicting the consumption pattern of a populace means delving deeper into the mind of the consumer. But creating a generalized character for the average consumer does not tell the whole story of human consumption behavior. If you cannot guarantee that two individuals will react in the same way under the same conditions, then monoliths of individual behavior are impossible to construct. So, the best place to start creating this model is in the basic psychology of consumption, which has three components that lead into one another. Each will characterize the general mindset for any individual at a stage of consumption. First is the stimulus or stimuli. These are the catalysts that create the need or desire that initiates action to consume. Some examples of stimuli are social norms and culture, as well as directed marketing and advertisement. Next is drive, the engine of the consumption path. This is the continuation and conveyance of the stimuli to the action of consumption. It is essentially the will and want of the consumption path. An example of this might be how thirst causes one to consume water. It isn't necessarily the stimuli of thirst that causes you to consume, but rather the continuation of thirst that does. Finally, response dictates the value and utility derived from consumption. It alters stimuli response so that the same stimuli introduced before will have a stronger or weaker effect if introduced in the same way. It isn't necessarily the end, unless the response is so negative it leads to a discontinuation of consumption. Otherwise, the cycle begins anew with the introduction of new stimuli. These three components comprise the consumer psychological model, the macro-scale view of consumption from an individual level. One can see there are many different stimuli and drives that can lead one to consume, but the outcome of final consumption is always the same. So determining the share of each influence on consumption captures these individuals' consumption behavior. Next, we will see how these behaviors manifest themselves into the macroeconomic model.
One prevalent concept in economics is the economic man model. It is influenced by prevalent economical thinkers such as Adam Smith and David Ricardo. This theory portrays humans as consistently rational and narrowly self-interested agents. They pursue their ends for the most optimal outcome possible. The person is rational in the sense that they try to attain a very specific outcome to its greatest extent at the least possible cost. This theory incorporates a few economic effects, such as the price effect, substitution effect, and income effect. The price effect contends that the lower the price of a product, the more that product will be purchased. The substitution effect states that the lower the price of a substitute product, the lower the utility will be for the original product. The income effect states that the higher one's income is, the higher quantity of products one will buy. Because consumer resources are limited, available funds would need to be properly allocated in order to maximize the satisfaction of the consumer's needs and wants. Consumers have complete knowledge of product and service utility. In addition, the law of diminishing marginal returns holds in this model. There are some critics of this model, including John Maynard Keynes, who contend that the model gives the consumer much more macroeconomic knowledge and economic forecasting than is reality in consumer behavior. Most economists, however, incorporate the criticisms into the economic man model itself in order to attain a more accurate model overall.
Technology and consumer behavior. The advancements in technology over the years has improved the understanding of consumer behavior, such as smartphones to tablets to Fitbits to GPSs can be found being used by almost anyone these days, connecting millions of people to the internet and has created large amounts of data allowing companies and marketers to better understand and follow current consumer behavior. Marketers are now able to study larger amounts of data that gives them more accurate results on consumer behavior. Technology and the internet has made it easier for marketers to target, narrow down, and find specific consumers. For example, companies study and follow specific types of people such as age or race and can see what they are searching and viewing online to determine certain consumer behavior. One big resource companies and marketers use to study consumers' behavior and connect with the consumer is social media. Social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram have hundreds of millions of users, giving companies a huge marketing avenue and data on consumer behavior. Social media allows consumers to communicate and interact with companies about their product, like writing reviews, asking questions about a product, and vice versa. Companies are able to study these views and questions and way people are talking about their product to better understand their consumer. This human interaction element to social media allows companies to follow and stay updated with their consumers. Consumer behavior can vary and change, and social media allows industries to follow the latest and ongoing trends.
As consumers, we have a choice of what to buy and how much of it we will get. By modeling the behavior of consumers, firms can get a clearer picture of what exactly consumers want and how they react to a price of products that they want and need. By doing this, scarce resources can be better allocated in order to better benefit all of society.